Hey guys, I am super stoked. I've got my friend Heather Case with us today. She is from Team Case with Guild Mortgage and an absolute rock star and all-star in her industry. So I caught her at a meeting I was at and heard her teaching and instructing the agents. And I thought there's a lot of crossover here for agents to pull ideas from her. So I invited her to come on the podcast. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you so much. It was an honor to be here.
Well, tell us, just so for people that don't know you, a little bit about your background, and then we're going to get into some kind of specific questions about your process and how I think it crosses over with realtors.
Yeah, of course. Well, again, thank you so much, Jim, for having me on this podcast. It's a big honor for me. My name is Heather Case. I've been in lending for 10 years now. Started back in 2015 as a loan officer assistant, working for my father, Brian Case, who was a big lender in my area here in Southern Oregon. I swore to myself I would never do this for a living, yet here I am. So that's kind of ironic. But was doing some broadcast journalism PR stuff before and just found that world to be not as glamorous as one might think. So made a change. Um, and I told myself I'd give it 2 years, and here I am 10 years later. I've officially taken over Brian's business with my business partner, Chris Ritchie, as of December of 2024, and am currently running the one of the top producing lending teams in the entire state of Oregon. So such a huge honor to work with a lot of realtors, and I'm excited to just hopefully give people little nuggets of information.
Well, it's interesting that because it's so impressive to watch from the distance, but there's a lot of crossover with what I think you do and what realtors do if
Right.
they're paying attention, right? And I think actually lenders sometimes have it worse than realtors because lenders, you got the refi market, which can supply some pretty good numbers, and then you got the purchase market, which supplies some numbers. When you're in
Right.
a interest rate environment that's rising, people are not refinancing as much, or if at
Right.
all. And then you got the purchase business is always getting hurt, so you got like a double
Yeah.
whammy, right?
Yeah.
So you gotta work twice as hard. So I'm very curious, from your perspective, what is like your approach to lead gen? I mean, it's relationship based, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So how do you approach it? What's your process?
Yeah, I think for us, we have probably three different approaches that I take. One is ensuring that I'm staying in front of my past client database because a lot of business is just not being, grasped sometimes from a lack of management of a database, especially when you have a database like I have because of years of someone building into that. And, even just with me being on the team, I have 10 years of talking with clients and doing loans. So just mining those databases and making sure you're staying in touch with people. Um, and obviously, you have that referral source from your past client database as well.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, I'm a mortgage lender. So staying in touch with my realtor partners, seeking out new opportunities to connect with maybe new referral relationships with agents. One of the main ways why I do that is especially if I'm working with a buyer's agent who I work with regularly, but maybe the listing agent isn't someone that I often work with. I ensure that I'm trying to, throughout that transaction, connect with that listing agent on a regular basis, make sure that my team is communicating with them well, make sure that they're having a good experience. And then in turn, hopefully that leads to the ability to ask to grab a cup of coffee or sit down and chat a little bit just about who are they, how do they operate their business, and find a connection there. Um, I really try to connect with my realtors on a personal basis, but um, I kind of go with more that deeper approach as opposed to quantity over quality. I'm more of a quality over quantity type of person.
Yeah.
And then the other thing too is, one thing that our team has been focusing on is branching out to other referral sources, just through the years of being in the business, trying to find different ways, maybe with other professionals that I work with that maybe not be quote unquote real estate, but that have a huge opportunity of clients they can refer to. So looking out for CPAs, family law attorneys, real estate attorneys, and just joining different networking groups where I can meet other business professionals, business owners, and find ways to connect with them. So that way I'm top of mind and building that relationship when they have, customers or clients or colleagues that find themselves in a position where they need to make a move.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, there's a great guy. His name is Justin Stoddard out of Portland, who I've had on the podcast, and he talks about the upstream model, which is kind of what you're doing too with your networking with other business owners. And he talks about realtors don't often think about business to business marketing, but it's really essentially what you do is you're B2B. You're not a lot of
Yes.
B2C, right? So you're going and talking to realtors and then you're also talking to these other professionals. But realtors kind of get a disconnect, I think, and they don't think about their business that way. But I think that realtors could learn a lot from your approach and start to say, hey, who else is like a real estate adjacent that they could go talk to an insurance agent, a financial planner, an attorney, an estate attorney that could send me a ton of business. And so, because
Hmm.
that's what you guys do, right?
Yeah, you'd be surprised at how many times I get a phone call from, an attorney or a CPA with certain questions. One thing that our team does is I say we have a really good niche and understanding of how to work with self-employed buyers and maybe those non-traditional income type of persons. And so a lot of the times we're working alongside that CPA while we're in the pre-approval process, especially during tax season, to ensure that they're, you know, not writing off too much so that way they
Yeah.
can qualify for a traditional mortgage. And that creates just um, a way for us to connect with various different CPAs. We've had clients that are CPAs. That's a really great referral source for us. And honestly, too, I mean, the family law attorney, I hate to say it, but you have diplomas, divorces, and diapers. And usually that's why people have to make a move. So
Right.
I
Right.
think, and death, unfortunately,
Yeah.
but I like to not say that part of the four Ds, but I do think that there's really ample opportunity there. I think there's, what we found on our end too is that connection with those attorneys is super helpful because we're learning a lot from them, especially real estate attorneys, with how certain people should vest title, and then also working with family law attorneys and explaining, we see a lot of divorce decrees. This is why this way of doing it doesn't always work for mortgage purposes. So
Mm,
trying to, learn from them in regard to the legal matters, them learning from us from what we can do on the lending side. And it just creates this level of trust. I mean, we've gotten to the point where we've even gone in as experts in a courtroom just to help out that attorney, but that creates a really cool referral network for us.
what's interesting about what you do too, and it's very similar to realtors, is that there's a ton of lenders, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously in every market, and then
Yeah.
there's a trillion realtors out there. There's a realtor on every rock. So I think differentiation is really important, right? How do you differentiate yourself when you're out there and from the perspective of the consumer, they think we're all selling the same services.
Right.
What is your approach to differentiation? And so part of it's relationship building, but what else is it?
I think our team has two different approaches to that. One is just, you have your first time home buyer,
Yep.
right? A lot of first time home buyers don't get the education around what a mortgage is, what the loan process looks like. They talk to somebody online or they talk to someone that maybe doesn't take the time to educate them on the process, and they're just stuck there blindly trusting that what they're being told is the only thing that they can do, with
Yeah.
not really fully feeling comfortable to ask questions and really get a full grasp of what this process is and what their mortgage means. So we really try to slow it down and create a very trusting and honest and open relationship up front, because most of those people are scared out of their mind,
Yeah.
and too afraid to ask a question. And so I try to simplify the language, take the time. It's a requirement on my team that anytime a first time home buyer gets pre-approved, the pre-approval consultation to go over their mortgage terms and their loan options is always in person. We don't do it over the phone. It's either on Zoom or on person or in person, because it's important for us to create an environment where they feel like they can ask those questions. And I also like to read their body language. I like to see, okay, are they showing some hesitancy? I can read that. Then I can ask a follow-up question that maybe goes a little deeper into maybe their fears or, anything going on emotionally in this transaction. And I think that creates a level of connection. The other thing is from the opposite standpoint, I think that we are really focused on the long-term financial success of that client. And we ask a couple questions, depending on the client. It's like, is this your starter home? Is this the home you want to die in? Or is this the beginning to your real estate empire? Because we're also focused on, creating wealth through real estate and looking at the long-term financial gain of various different investments. My business partner used to manage investments and was a financial planner. So we have a very unique niche in that regard, with being able to analyze tax returns, looking at investment portfolios, and working with financial planners and CPAs, again, to make sure that we're making the right move for the person to ensure the smartest move with their money.
So one thing I've noticed about your team specifically is when you are coming to an office meeting, you're presenting, you're going deep into the products too, which I think is a big
Mhm.
differentiation point where a lot of people say, well, we got this, that, and the other, but there's no depth to the explanation. There's no depth to the knowledge, which I think is a big
Right.
differentiation tool too, is the education piece of it, which is important. Um, when we're talking about technology, and technology is such a big part of what we both do, how
Hmm.
are you applying technology? Because this is the reason I saw
Yeah.
you speak about this, and I want you to really hit this. How are you applying technology to the follow-up process and like
Yeah.
sticking with the whole, being super consistent is what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. No. So I am lucky enough to work with a company that invests in, I think, what is the best CRM, hands down, above anything else. We utilize Salesforce in a big way. So every single one of my clients or contacts is entered into my CRM as either a partner, which would be my referral contacts, CPAs, real estate agents, etc., or a lead. And so the good thing about that is I can track where they're at in the transaction, where that lead source came from, and then I utilize a technology that speaks to Salesforce. It's a product called Outreach. And that program allows me to build out multiple different sequences of follow up depending on where that client is in the process. So that way, every day I can schedule out time, go in and look at all of my clients that are waiting to buy, all of my clients that are working on credit, all of my clients that are, still in lead status that I need to reach out to and try to capture. Those that are pre-approved, we have post-funding follow-up. So we're just always staying in front of people, and my team has been trained to be in there every day, and everyone's in charge of a certain sequence that they have to follow up on. So we're constantly staying in front of that database. And depending on that status that they're in, a lot of that can be automated. They're, email sequences, those ones where they're this active lead, that's a lot more hands-on. They're hearing from us physically a lot more. But those waiting to buy sequences, post funding sequences, a lot of those are automated. And then once they come up in that sequence, that's time for me to make a phone call. Boom, I know it's there. I check in.
So when you're looking at this from you being a helpful asset or like a partner with the realtor, I
Mm-hmm.
know that in our conversations that you are almost, I wouldn't say taking over, but you are helping these realtors do the job that most of them are terrible at, which is follow up, right?
Right.
So this is important because this is going out to the nation. So
Yeah.
when we have a realtor, and not in your market because we want them to work with you, but in any other market in the nation,
Yeah.
they should pick a lender that is doing kind of what you're doing, which is what coming alongside the agent and really helping them to follow up, right? And is that your process?
Yeah. So, in that meeting that you heard me speak at, what I was talking to those agents about was just finding someone that's going to partner alongside of you to help you grow your business. That's not just someone that is going to answer the phone on the weekends, because if someone's just selling you that, that's expected. So that's not really a selling point,
Given.
right? Like,
Yeah.
real estate happens on the weekends, your lender should pick up the phone, right? So I think the main thing that I talk to agents about, and the agents that work with me regularly can attest to this, and the new ones that I'm trying to work with, I tell them is like, let me do the hard work for you. What I see as a business partner is someone that's going to come alongside of you. If you're going to trust me with that lead and you're going to trust me with that new buyer, it's my job to capture that, because you effectively, as a realtor, can't do anything until I do my job.
Yeah.
So you have deals that you're trying to close, you have things in escrow, you have showings to do for your already pre-approved buyers. Let me be the one with my systems that I have in place to follow up on that person. The great thing is, if we get to a point where for some reason that client maybe is credit challenged or decides that the market's not right for them, or they have life come up and they have to wait, I am still going to follow up with them regularly. And because of the CRM and the systems I have in place, I know exactly where that client came from. So the minute they're ready to go, I pick up the phone, I give my agent a call, and I say, hey, do you remember John Smith from
Mm,
8 months ago who thought he was going to buy a house, but he had bad credit? Well, guess what? I've helped him. He's worked on his credit. He's ready to go.
yeah.
So the other nice thing is too, is those past clients too. I mean, a big thing is making sure that we're referring back to our business partners that are referring to us. That's the best way we
Mhm.
can say thank you to a realtor, is by giving them a pre-approved buyer.
Yeah.
So the nice thing too is, if it is a past client that you helped with on the buy side, I can then say, hey, remember that client we closed a deal with 5 years ago? Well, they're ready to move again. You should give them a call. I'm already getting them pre-approved.
Yeah.
So it's a way for me to give back and partner alongside to ensure that both our businesses are continuing to grow.
I think that's what a great lender should be doing, which is amazing. I have a question for you, and this is not something you're prepared for. So, so NAR policy changes last year. We had the NAR policy changes, which required that all agents sign buyers under a buyer representation agreement. So one thing that I've been advocating as somebody that's out teaching about this
Yeah.
is that if you have a great relationship with a lender like you, that when they get to the point, and I just want your thoughts about this, when they get to the
Mm-hmm.
point of writing an offer, like they've been pre-qualified, they've been pre-approved with you, they're at the
Mm-hmm.
point of writing the offer. What I'm recommending is they go back to the lender. They could call Heather and they say, Heather, we're going to write up 123 Johnson Street,
Yep.
and we want a good faith estimate from you because the seller's only offering to pay 2% of the 3% buyer agent fee.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to make sure we're reflecting that on the closing statement. So they're going to owe 1% if we're charging 3. Then
Mm-hmm.
they're going to have the lender fees, the appraisals, everything else. And so they get a really clear picture of, hey, here's what it's going to cost me to get into this house. That's
Mm-hmm.
something I'm sure you guys are dealing with, or no? Or is that something
Yeah.
that's, yeah,
Yeah, we can do that. So we can do it both ways. Like if the commission for the agent is being totally paid for by the seller and they don't want anything like that to show up on the buyer's fee estimate, we don't
yep,
have to include it. But
sure,
if the fees are being split by both buyer and seller, or if the buyer is responsible for paying the real estate commission out of their own pocket, there's a place within our system. So that shows that we can add that fee, and then it all auto populates and shows up on any loan estimate, any closing document, any like even just cost worksheet. Maybe it's not an official LE, but it's just a cost worksheet that we're generating for our system. And the nice thing about that is I can generate that, even while they're shopping. So even before you're in contract, like you
yeah,
just said, we're thinking about writing this offer. The buyer is not surprised by any fees. The one thing that I always tell my buyers is if you're surprised by a fee at the end, I did something wrong.
yeah,
And so I'm really big on making sure that what you see on the loan estimate is what you're going to pay. And if something pops up that was unexpected, that wasn't an issue within the contract, right? Because we had to extend or whatever like that, but something that I messed up on, I'll pay the difference and I'll write a check for the difference. Because I hear so many horror stories about surprise fees coming up at closing, and all of a sudden a buyer's agent is sitting at a closing table, which is always another reason why I, as the lender, show up to the closing table because I want to make sure those are correct.
yeah,
But where the client is now like, wait, I wasn't expecting to come in with this, and now they have to come in with more money, and now they're scrambling. So to your point, I think it's really important that all lenders are able to do that. And if there's a system out there that isn't allowing that lender to do that, I challenge them to challenge their mortgage company because it's really important.
yeah. I think that transparency gives buyers a sense of calm, and I think it's really good that they
Right.
know what they're getting into, which is important.
And
Uh,
that's the one thing that I tell my clients all the time. Sorry to interrupt, but is that like
no,
I'm going to be totally transparent with you about every single cost that goes into this, which is
mm.
why when you ask me to run numbers, I'm not just going to tell you the payment. I'm going to show you a cost estimate for every single property that you're thinking about writing an offer on.
So now a totally different topic is
Mm-hmm.
that when we're talking about something that I know Brian and you've done for years,
Yeah.
and I don't know where you're at with it now, but I've been to a few of them, which is you used to do something called Thirsty Thursdays, and I'm
Yeah.
bringing this up because I think it's a great model for agents because agents they don't know a great job with client parties. You see companies do client parties, but not a
Mm-hmm.
lot of good agents do client parties. What's your theory behind it? And what do you guys, why have you done it? And how's it worked?
Yeah, it's worked. We are bringing it back. We took a little hiatus as we were in that transition of leadership on the team, but it's going to
Yeah.
come back. We've done it for years. So we would do every third Thursday of the month, we would pick like a local business establishment and we would meet up. We would invite all of our realtor partners to just sit down, have drinks on us, and just talk.
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about the business. There was no set agenda or anything like that. I think a lot of the times, in our industry, we always feel like we have to have some sort of topic that we need to talk about. But one thing that really helped us is it allowed us to connect on a couple things. You have real estate agents talk to each other a lot of the time, but they don't always see each other face to face. And this event was open to all partners that we work with, any brokerage, anything. And so the cool thing to watch was it created this camaraderie and friendships and relationships with agents amongst other brokerages who have maybe done a bunch of deals together, but they've never seen each other face to face. It also, I would hear conversations about people talking about deals that they're struggling with, and they just collaborate and talk about stuff. It allows us to talk about, you know, ask us questions, but just connect on a different level, whether you want it to be personal or business. And that just created a really cool environment, I think. And it just helped lower walls with people, because
Yeah.
there's something about when you meet with someone that you're working with and you've seen them face to face, it's really easy to be like really tough on the phone. But once
Yeah.
you've met that person
Not
and
in
you talk,
person. Yeah.
yeah, and you talk
Yeah.
to that person and you're like, wait a minute,
Uh-huh.
Jim Remley's on the other end of this transaction. Like, I was kind of rough with him last time, but I just had drinks with him last Thursday. He's actually a pretty cool dude. Like,
Right.
maybe we can work something out. And it just created this environment that was really cool. And I think for us, it did end up creating referral business, because it was like, hey, we're getting to see a lot of people at one time. We're staying top of mind as this lender that does this really cool thing. Um, and I think it just created a different type of community. Like,
Yeah, and that's sort of what you're talking about is community. And kind of behind the scenes, I want to kind of go through the meat grinder on this for a second. With realtors,
mhm,
they should be doing this with their spheres of influence, right?
correct. Yeah.
So they should be modeling the same kind of thing, but with their sphere. And the goal is just to create relationships and deepen relationships and maybe get some referral business. But on the
Right.
other side, just under the hood of this thing, what does that look like? Are you calling, texting, eviting to
Yeah.
people? And what percentage of people do you invite actually attend? I'm just curious.
Not as many as we invite, but because we invite insurance agents, we invite financial planners, like we invite our whole sphere of influence to this too, because we want to try to initiate those connections for our agents with those other possible spheres of influence. Um, we'll send, I do a couple things. I do a text and I do email, and
Mhm.
then if I see them that week, I'm like, hey, don't forget
Yep.
Thursday, like it's happening, downtown, here we go.
Right.
Um, and I would say we would probably send the invite out to, anywhere from 80 to 100 people. And like some days we'd get three, honestly. And I'm like, really? This is kind of
Uh,
depressing. Like, but
Right.
then other times we'd have like 30, 40 people in the room,
Yeah.
So it just, everyone's schedule is crazy. And, I'm talking to a bunch of real estate agents right now. Like, you could have a client call me, like, I want to see this listing. And you thought you were going to go to this event and now you're not. So I think if you're going to incorporate something like this, just, I would say don't get discouraged by the amount of attendance, because it's the consistency, just like with any type of business model and trying to lead generate and create relationships. You just have to be consistent,
Yeah.
and word gets around, because
Mhm.
pretty soon I would have people reaching out to me being like, hey, I hear you do this thing. And I'm like, yeah, well, you can come, but let's talk, because, and it just creates new relationships. Or have agent be like, hey, I have this other agent that wants to come. Is that okay? Yeah, bring them, because that's why I'm doing this. Like, I want
Exactly.
to meet
Building a
new
business.
people.
Yeah.
And so it kind of, it becomes its own little animal. But
And then just as a tag onto this, you guys have done this for years too, which is absolutely brilliant. And I've been a customer of both of you guys, so I appreciate the marketing, which is you have a financial planner in town who's a fantastic guy, Trey.
yeah,
And you guys partner with Trey and you guys do like a co-event.
we
And
do.
the brilliance of this, like what's it, cigars and what is it? Cigars and bourbon, right? Or something like that?
It's our annual whiskey, wine, and cigar event.
Whiskey, wine, and cigars.
Yeah.
And the brilliance of this, I think, and maybe I'm not thinking about this right, but he's inviting his database,
Right.
you're inviting your database,
Hmm.
and because of the types of people you're dealing with, they're pretty much aligned databases. They're very similar kinds of people,
Yep.
and now all these people get to network with each other, but you guys all get to meet each other's clients, which is brilliant,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Is that the theory behind it?
Yeah. Yeah. Trey is one of Trey's with Country Financial. He's an insurance agent and a financial planner. And we work with them a lot, especially just with our area, just because they can insure a lot of properties that other people can't. So we feed them a lot of business. So we came up with this idea a few years back of like, what if we just go through this big party like once a year, essentially?
Yeah,
And we just hung out with everybody, and we just invited spheres of influence, because he is an insurance agent, wanted to meet more realtors. And I was like, well, I got realtors, like, but I want to meet your people, And so we just kind of created this event, and it's become a huge thing that
yeah,
like everyone looks forward to. And the cool thing about it is, I would say, like, if you're an agent doing this, like, like collaborating with those spheres of influence and bringing everyone's collective contacts into one room just creates so much opportunity to support your other business colleagues, whether they're in your industry or not, and elevate them in a way of being like, hey, you have your entire sphere. There's one point where I get to get up there and talk to the whole group of people and just being like, hey, thank you for being here. We both share in the cost of that event. So I give a huge shout out to his team. And he's gotten a lot of realtor connections from that. So
Yeah.
I think a really good way for us to have been able to show that we're not only really good at the follow up and the lending side, but just we're going to edify you as an expert in your field in other ways as well. And that's one of the ways that we do it.
Love it. So let me ask you this. You obviously you're a goal setter. You're somebody that I know your dad's a goal setter, you're a goal setter, and you
Yeah.
guys, I'm sure you start the year and say, okay, I want to close this many loans. I want to do this, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
in order to facilitate that number, I'm assuming you work that number backwards and say, okay, in order to facilitate this, I've got to do this, which means I got to do this and I got to do this. Does
Yeah.
that translate all the way down into like your daily plan? Like I get up in the morning and I know what I'm supposed to be doing?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Like a realtor.
Yeah. So we every year I start with like an annual, and this is actually something that if you're on this call, hopefully you're on Jim's coaching. You need to be in coaching if you're not in coaching, because I did not do this before I was in coaching. But it's really important to be able to have your annual goals and then to be reviewing those on a quarterly basis and figuring out, okay, how are we trending? Because I can have a goal to do 75 million or 100 million, but if the market isn't there, I also need to readjust, right? You
Yeah.
need your BHAG, your big,
Did you hear audacious goal?
I
Yeah.
didn't know if I was, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was going to say
Yeah.
something else, but then you also need to have like attainable goals. And I think what happens is a lot of the times that salespeople and professionals will get overwhelmed by looking at the goal at the end of the year, but realizing, I take that annual goal, my business partner, I would sit down, we break it into quarterly goals, then we break it into monthly goals, and then we break it into, weekly goals and then daily tasks. So if I know I want to get to this many, because we have the system, so we know, like, if one deal is worth this much money, if I want to do this much in volume or this many units, then I need to make this many calls this year. And you kind of break it down so I know how many, good I call them gold conversations I
Yeah.
need to have every day in order to make sure that I'm on track to achieve my goals.
Which is a lesson for all of us because we preach the five non-negotiables, which I got to know my five things I got to do every day in order to win the day. And until you get
Mm-hmm.
really have clarity on that, whatever industry you're in, you're going to struggle. So I think that's just a good
Mm-hmm.
lesson that, here's one of the top lenders of the nation is doing it. You're not above it, even though you've got this amazing business that you could just kind of glide on if you wanted to, but you're coming in with intentionality, which I think is important.
Yeah, in my coaching group, just through Guild Mortgage, and it works because I was number 18 in the company last month, so it works.
Yeah.
Is we follow what we call like a 5-3-2 game plan. So I have 1 hour a day for 5 days a week that is dedicated to prospecting. I need 3 face-to-face appointments, and I need to go to 1 event. So
Nice.
I just need to always be out there. Now, let's be real, we're all human.
Yeah.
I sometimes don't follow that. But if you can do that consistently, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Heather, you're a wealth of information. I know everybody that does business with you is super happy and is absolutely a raving fan. So if you're in, what would it be, the Oregon market, they can work with
Yes.
you? Yeah. Okay. So,
Oregon, California, Idaho, and Washington, actually.
oh, bigger footprint than
Yeah.
we thought. Okay. So if you're in those markets and you want to work with Team Case, reach out to Heather. Heather, I'm assuming what would be the best way they could do that? How could they reach out to you?
Yeah, so you can reach out to me via email, phone, either way. I'm also on social media, so you can follow us on Instagram. I will make sure I give you, Jim, all of my contact information so you
Okay.
can put it in the podcast somewhere.
We'll put those
And
notes.
yeah, you guys can give me a call anytime, even if you just want to talk more about how I run events or how I've gone through with creating contact lists to put those together. Happy to do that, but would also obviously love to do business with you.
Okay. So thank you so much, Heather, for being on the program. Have a great
Of
day.
course.
Guys, if you like what you heard and you want to continue hearing it, hit the like button, subscribe. If you're a brokerage owner and you need help with recruiting or retention, reach out to me and we can have a discovery call. Love to have that conversation with you. Have a great day and good selling.